you beautiful people. This is absolutely awesome. Thank you all for taking time out of your evening to be here. You remember that Anti-Gun Initiative 1639 that passed? So the day after that passed, I was on duty in Republic, and I started getting asked by citizens, so what now? Are you going to start arresting 18 and 21-year-olds who you see with a semi-automatic rifle? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because it's a violation of their constitutional rights, and I took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. As long as I'm the Chief of Police of Republic, no officer working under me will violate anyone's constitutional rights, period. So I wrote about an ordinance, and I titled it the Second Amendment Sanctuary City, because the left, especially at the time, they were pushing sanctuary cities and sanctuary states for people who enter our country illegally and break our laws. So I thought, why not have a sanctuary for the Second Amendment that is under attack? Because Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution says that the power is inherent in the people, and government is there to protect citizens' rights, right? So I detest most politicians. I never wanted to be a politician because they lie to us. They don't uphold their oath of office. I don't even know if most of them have read the Constitution, which is the rule book for our government. But as it went into summer, more and more people were coming out to hear me speak at these events, and more people were asking me to please run for governor. And in June and July, I started looking around, and there wasn't anybody running that I could for sure know they're going to stand up for our rights. So that's what brings me in front of you right now. It's the people were asking me to run for governor. I'm not the establishment candidate. I'm not the party pick. I'm not the media pick. I'm from we the people. And that's the way we're going to turn this government around. Was the so-called homeless crisis, right? It's not just in downtown Seattle, it's permeated all across this state. But I called it like I saw it. You know, the news media and other candidates are calling it a homeless crisis. But it is a mental health and addiction crisis. And our state is not focusing on that. You know, the other candidates and Jay Inslee agreed on one thing in the beginning. We need millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to build homes for these people that are living on the street. If we built a home for every person on the street and there's no one else living on the street, a few things would happen. They would turn into the next slums. People would be dying of overdoses in there. And people would start coming to Washington State from all over the United States saying, I don't have a home either, build me one. It would be a perpetual building program that would cost us billions. And I don't know about you guys, but I pay far too many taxes as it is and don't get any results. Add to that the fact that you can go places in this state where the police will not arrest people for having 7 to 8 grams of heroin on them because the prosecutors will not prosecute. They say, the left says that it's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. That's exactly the opposite of reality. We had a zero tolerance policy. If you had residue of heroin in a baggie, that's a felony in this state, right? And so we would arrest them, put them in jail, they would go see a judge, and the judge would give them the choice. You can either go to prison or jail, depending on the severity of their crimes, or you can go to treatment. And most of them chose treatment. And a funny thing started happening. After these people would get their head on straight, they'd get off the drugs and start getting their life back together, they'd come up to us and give us a hug and say, thank you for saving my life. You know, the left says it's not compassionate to put them in jail. Well, it's not compassionate to leave them on the street, stuck in the cycle of addiction, living the way that they do, by not focusing on the core issue, which is narcotics and mental health. So as governor, I will focus on that and redirect the wasted money that we're spending now and get it into programs that actually work and help people. I want our salmon runs to get back to the way they were when I was a kid. You know, growing up in the 70s, there were fish all over the place. People would come from all over the world, all over the United States, to come to Washington, go out on a charter boat and go fishing. And think about the economic impact, right? Every boat has a captain and a crew that make living wages, and then all of the support facilities on shore. You know, the hotels, the sporting goods stores, the cafes. airplanes. That's gone. You go from 300 charter boats to 28 just in Westport alone. That's not talking about all the other ports around this state. That's a huge industry that isn't here anymore. We need to bring that back. And I will make that a priority as governor. And that brings me to another subject. These riots in downtown Seattle, right? Is anybody happy about what's going on there? No. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, we have a First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, right? That's guaranteed to us by the First Amendment. We are exercising our First Amendment right now. Doesn't it feel great? Peaceably assemble, right? We have that right. We can protest, and rightfully so. Mr. Floyd was killed by the police officer from what I saw in that video, right? No police academy in this country teaches police officers to put their knee on someone's neck. None. There is not a department in this country that has it in their policy that you put your knee on someone's neck. That officer acted outside of his training and outside of policy, and I hope that he gets swift and severe justice. Has anybody heard of David Dorn? Yes. 77-year-old retired black man from St. Louis who was a former police chief. And that man went to a business to try to protect it from looters in St. Louis. And they shot him on the sidewalk and live streamed him bleeding out on the sidewalk while they looted the building. Why isn't that all over the news? Right? Why are they picking and choosing which ones to put on the news? Why aren't over 100 black men being killed in Chicago every month on the news? Where's the protests over that? The protests are over a police officer, rightfully so. You know, he's getting severe punishment, I would hope. But keep in mind, he was arrested, and the others involved were arrested by good police officers, and they took him to jail. There are over 800,000 police officers in this country, and they go about doing their job, protecting their community, putting bad people in jail, protecting good people every day, every night, 7 days a week, all year long. And they do a darn fine job. And when one or two do something stupid and criminal, the left media goes nuts. 800,000 people doing a great job, and all they want to focus on is one and try to divide everyone by race. I don't care if you're black, white, brown, I don't care where you come from. If you're a citizen of Washington State and a citizen of the United States, we are brothers and sisters, right? We are all one race, and that's the human race. We have to get away from dividing everyone by the color of their skin. It's absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary. The left loves to do that. Bringing people together to get things done for our state and our community is what I am all about. We have to do it. We got to quit with this dividing each other. We got to stop. We have to keep spreading the truth. You know, so when they were exercising their First Amendment right to peaceably assemble and protest, that's allowed. But as soon as you start breaking glass and looting buildings, lighting buildings on fire, lighting cars on fire, throwing rocks and frozen water bottles at the police, that is no longer a First Amendment right. Do we agree on that? That's a crime. It's called rioting. So Jay Inslee, when the local police requested backup, he sent in the National Guard, right? But what did he do first? He told them not to bring firearms to protect themselves or others. And then he announced it to the world and the criminals that I'm sending in the National Guard, but they don't have any weapons. You do not send our young men and women into harm's way without the means to protect themselves, the property, and other people, ever. But what would I do if I was governor? When things started getting out of hand, I would have spun up the National Guard with the firearms to protect themselves and others. And they would have staged close by to where the riots are starting. And as soon as local law enforcement, state patrol called for backup, they would have been there in minutes, not hours or days. And they would have had a means to shut it down and arrest people, and it would have stopped. We do not negotiate with international terrorists, and we do not negotiate with domestic terrorists either. I would shut a riot down as soon as possible and return freedom and liberty back to the citizens. So should we talk about COVID-19? So Jay Inslee is picking winners and losers, right? He's been doing that since the beginning. He's telling which businesses can be open, who can go to work, which businesses have to be closed. And you tell me if this makes sense, okay? If you own a marijuana shop or an abortion clinic or a big box store, you could be open. But if you own a mom and pop cafe or a salon or a gun store or a church, you had to shut it down, right? Does that make sense to anyone? Today he mandated that everybody wear masks. 3 months into this, and now we're going to wear masks? Really? Does that make sense? But what would I do if I was governor and a virus happens? Because this isn't going to be the last one. It's not the first one, right? We've had SARS, bird flu, swine flu, you name it, AIDS. They've been around forever. They keep coming, and there's probably going to be more. So what would I do as governor when the next virus happens? I would have press conferences with the medical professionals and explain to the citizens of Washington State what this is, what they should do to protect themselves, what might happen if they don't follow the medical advice. You know, because I'm not a doctor. But get the information out to the citizens, explain what's going on, what they should do, what might happen if they don't. And then as governor, make sure the supply chain's open so that materials and equipment is available. And then let individual citizens decide what's best for themselves, their family, and their business. You govern a free state. That's how you govern free citizens. The governor is put into office to manage the executive branch of the state government. Not every aspect of our lives, not every aspect of our businesses or family. That is not the role of our government. And we need to get our government off our back, out of our pocketbook, and back within the lanes of the Constitution. What they don't understand is the Constitution is the rule book for our government. It tells them what they can and can't do. It doesn't tell us what we have to do. It's the rule book for the government. And for far too long, our government has been acting outside the bounds of the Constitution and the rule of law. I'm the law and order candidate. I absolutely love our founding documents. And I think that a lot of problems that we have, most of them, will be solved when we get our government back inside the chains of the Constitution and abide by the rule of law. And the nice thing about the Constitution and the rule of law is it protects everyone equally when it's applied. It doesn't matter what your business is. It doesn't matter what your race is or your sex. It applies to everyone equally. That's the beautiful thing about the law. But it has to be followed. There has to be people in office that understand the servant role of our government. Our government is not our master. Jay Inslee is not our boss. We are free individual citizens, and we have the right to live our life in peace and have government off our backs. I get asked all the time, how do you feel about the school systems and being forced to take a vaccine, like for this COVID? If they come out with a vaccine, how do you feel about that? Because you know it's coming. Jay Inslee said we had to wear masks starting today until there's a vaccine. I don't think that a government agent should tell anyone what they're going to put in their body. That is an individual choice. If I want to wear a mask, if I want to wear gloves, if I want to take a vaccine, that's my free choice, right? If I don't want to, that's my free choice as well. The government has no business telling us what to put in our body. That is up to us. And people said, well, you're not going to win King County. You're not going to win the West Side vote. You know, you're a guy from a small town in eastern Washington. The West Side's not going to support you. But I got news for them. From the beginning of this campaign, the most donations, the area where most donations to my campaign come from are from Everett down to Olympia, right in the heart of Puget Sound. And I'm hearing from people who said they've been lifelong Democrats, never even thought about voting for a Republican, but they've read American Cop, they've seen my website, they've heard me speak, and they love everything about individual freedom and liberty and getting the government off our backs. And they're voting for me. They feel like the Democrat Party has taken a hard left turn and left them standing in the middle of the road. And they have. They don't like the far left policies either. They love their freedoms. They love law and order. They like their communities to be the way that they used to be. This state, back to the way it was when I was growing up in the 70s, where we were free. We didn't have a big bloated government lording over us and taxing the crap out of us. We can return Washington State to individual freedom and liberty and make this a great state that it once was. I absolutely love this state, and I know you guys too, and I appreciate the support. This is amazing. God bless Washington, and God bless America.